On today's episode of Survival Dispatch News, we're joined by Dr. Jennifer Stankus.
Hey guys, today's video is brought to you by USCCA, your source for education, training, and self-defense liability insurance.
All right, guys, we're back with Dr. Jennifer Stankus. This woman has so many life experiences, titles, jobs, and so much cool stuff going on in her life. It's such a pleasure to have you, Dr. Jenn. Thanks for joining us. A doctor, a lawyer, an expert witness, a television producer. What did I leave out?
Ex-cop, military ×2, airborne.
All that. Dang, man. Thank you so much for coming on with us. We really, really appreciate it, Chris. This is really an honor for me. Dr. Jenn and I, we chat back and forth on social media. We just haven't been able to really connect. And so thank you, Survival Dispatch, for making this connection, right?
It's everybody wants to be part of Survival Dispatch.
We hope.
I'm just joking.
Well, thank you so much. Chris has a ton of questions for you. I'm going to interject every now and then because I know a little bit about you as well, but I'll let you kind of lead us off, Chris.
Well, actually, I'd like to start with your background in survival and then kind of dovetail that into your experience on Surviving Man, where you put some men twice, 3 times your size, half your age to shame. So like I said, offline, I'm sure that was good for some people's egos.
Just training super hard every day.
Why don't you just start with your background, your training in survival in particular?
Well, it's always just been an interest of mine. I was kind of an introvert growing up in Colorado, and I loved to do backcountry stuff by myself. So, I learned to climb and mountaineer and learned how to, build shelters and fires and just whatever on my own, just because I thought it was fun. But then, just all of my training in the military and law enforcement, and again, just my interests. I've always taken a keen interest, especially, I'm not a big person. I'm 5'5", 112, 114 pounds. And I always thought that it was important to be able to take care of myself. So, when I was in law enforcement, I took special arrest and control techniques and just read everything I could about street survival and all of that. So it's been kind of a lifelong study for me.
Man, that's really interesting. So how did you end up on the first season of Surviving Man? Was there like a call for people to apply, or how'd that work?
Yeah, so I was a member of Front Sight, if you know what that is. They're no longer in business, but the owner had sent out a membership-wide email just saying, hey, if anyone is an expert in weapons and, wants to be on the show and shoot, and it's like, COVID time, I want something normal. Ammo prices are through the roof. And I'm like, wait, you want me to go like do PT and do crazy stuff and shoot guns and like, I don't have to pay for this? Like, sign me up. Like, I'll even pay. So I submitted my little video, and I was in my doctor garb in the emergency department, and I was just like, hey, I'm a 2A proponent and I love to blow shit up, and if you'd have me on the show, that would be awesome. Sorry about that.
the reality show application process, I've been through that as well with that History Channel show Top Shot, and there was actually there were a ton of people applied for it. And I know they start up with my situation, started with large group, narrowed it down. Do you know how many people actually applied to be on the first season of Surviving Man, and how was that process of whittling down to the final competitors that you were a part of?
Yeah, I think I want to say there were about 600.
Wow.
I mean, it's a lot, but it's not. I mean, this is the very first show from American Stories Entertainment. And so, not a big name. They're just kind of getting into the entertainment industry at that point. They've done a lot since, but yeah, still about 600 people. And apparently, just with my background, they're like, we want her.
Yeah.
Right on.
Awesome. So as Chris mentioned, man, you kicked ass on that show. You must have been, obviously you were very physically fit. What kind of training regimen do you go through with your physical fitness?
Well, a couple of things. So, I mean, I am all about fitness. I always have been. I was second in the world in BMX as a kid. Competitive, like I wanted to go to the Olympics in skiing. Like I've always been very athletic, and I remember even I was 5 years old and I had dreams of going to the Olympics, and I'd go out for like a 5-mile run or whatever. Whatever.
Wow.
But I fitness is just a part of my life, and I think it's an important part of survival. You're only as good as your mind and your body in survival. So I lift a few times a week, but it's mostly body weight workouts. And it doesn't take long. You can do, like I do this body weight workout regimen from an ex-SEAL trainer. And I actually got that when I found out I was on the show. I was like, oh man, this is SEAL. So I assume it's going to be something like that. So I'm going to train like him. So, even doing like 25 minutes a day of body weight workout is amazing. And then just eating right and then staying active, going for hikes or runs or whatever. But it's pretty much a daily part of my life.
Yeah. Awesome.
How often do you go to the range?
So that's been an issue. So I split my time between Washington State, which is very liberal, and Nevada. And Washington State, we had a range, but it was like 2 hours away. You can't spend 4 hours driving and then go to, that's just not realistic. And then in the rain, it's just not as much fun, and restrictions on what you can do. Well, we found a great range here in Nevada. I can use drone to film it. I can set up any course I want, but it was like closed to membership during COVID. So the only range time I had for like years was a few times out at Front Sight. And thank God I had enough background in weapons and such that I did okay on Surviving Man. But since then, it's been great. I've been doing these Firearms Fridays on my Instagram every week, just a fun drill for people. I'm not a pro shooter, but I just want people to get out and be proficient. If you have guns, you better use them and you better be proficient, because otherwise, someone could get hurt, and we don't want that. But
since you mentioned that, shout out your social media for our viewers so they know where they can follow you.
So yeah, I appreciate that, because I'm always in Instagram jail for my Firearms Fridays. They can't reconcile me being a doctor and also liking to shoot guns and believing that we should have the right to own them. So it's on Instagram, it's _DR_Jenn. So Dr. Jenn. So _DR_JENN. And if you don't put it in exactly, you won't find me, because they try to hide me. And even when
I know. I've been shadow banned. It's crazy.
And even when you do put my name in exactly, I'm like the 8th person down.
Yeah.
Like all these, it's so weird.
Yeah. And do you have a YouTube channel going?
I do. I think that's just Dr._Jenn.
Okay.
I'm a lot easier to find on that.
Okay, maybe we can throw some links in there.
Sure.
Awesome. Sorry to cut you off. I know it's important to let people know where they can follow you and follow us at Survival Dispatch as well. So guns, survival, shooting, military background, law enforcement background. How do you juggle all these titles and jobs and things that you're now what is your official title with American Stories as a producer?
So this is pretty cool. So, I never say no to a great opportunity, learning or adventure. And that's what's kind of led my life to be as interesting as it has been. And, I've been practicing law and medicine for a long time. And I want a bigger impact. And so when I got involved with American Stories and Surviving Man, I've done 2 seasons now of Surviving Man, and then have now hosted a show called Surviving Man: The Aftermath, where we kind of break it down.
Yep.
And then I started talking with the owner, the CEO, Bob, and I was like, Bob, I want to do more. I want to bring more content to people that's really helpful and educational. And so he's like, fine, I'll make you the producer in the military and law enforcement themed content area. And then if you guys want to hear about it, I've got a really exciting show that we're going to be shooting pretty soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
So I had this idea, the crime in this country is totally out of control because of lack of, because of our prosecutor situation, because of the civil climate, but it's out of control. There's no consequence for crime, and so it's going up.
Right.
So
Yeah.
People are afraid. Lots of people are buying guns for the first time, which is great as long as you practice and you know what you're doing and you use it. But people don't know what to do, so that's what they do. They buy a gun, they feel like they're safe, and So what I wanted to do is do a show where we put someone through a common crime experience. And this, by the way, I'm going to be co-starring with Sheriff Lamb, which is super exciting.
Sheriff Lamb, awesome.
Yeah. So the 2 of us will co-star in this. And so we'll put people through this scenario. Things will go very south, as they always do. We'll stop action, rewind, train them up, talk about things that they could have done differently, ways to avoid the situation. If you can't avoid it, what do? Provide them tools to do that, whether it's a firearm or some other self-defense weapon, or burn a less lethal option, something like that. And then we'll restart the action and see how they do. But I'm really excited to have a bigger impact. Like I want this to be my legacy, to help empower people to live their lives, feel safe, no matter what environment they're in.
What's that television show called, and when will we be able to see it?
Yeah, so it's going to be called Lifeline. And I think we're going to shoot sometime this summer. And then however long post-production takes, hopefully it'll be out in the fall. But I'm really excited about it.
That's very exciting. You mentioned less lethal, and as a former law enforcement officer myself, I'm very familiar with a lot of that. You mentioned Berna specifically, and before we started taping, we saw a logo somewhere there in your image. There you go, Berna Nation. Cool. What's your involvement with Berna, and tell us a little bit about that.
Well, so, Berna is interesting. So I do a lot of expert witness work, and I have been involved in some pretty high profile self-defense cases. And depending on where you are, regardless of whether you're right or wrong, you're in deep trouble. And I didn't even know what Berna was, but we have a neighbor up in Washington who is an ex-Army helicopter pilot, big 2A guy. He's like, I'm not carrying a fire. He's like, I'll carry a firearm, but my primary self-defense weapon now is Berna. And I'm like, what in the heck is Berna? And we started talking about it. I started researching it. And then we bought one. And then we bought another. Every single car we have has one in it. And so I was like, there are 3 kingpin sponsors that I feel like have to be in Lifeline. One is USCCA or something like it.
Yep.
2 is Mantis X or something like it.
Yeah.
Because
great training tool. Yeah, wait a minute.
It is because yes, exactly. Yeah. My view is that if you're going to if you have a gun on you, before you put that weapon on you, you should at least dry fire a few times, because I know from Surviving Man, when you pick up a weapon cold that you haven't used, it's, you're not going to be as good. So practice, and it's free. Once you buy the product, it's free forever. And then the other one was Berna, having a less lethal option. And so I reached out to them, and interestingly, I spent the entire day at their headquarters in Las Vegas yesterday. I tested out all their new stuff, including their shotgun round, which is amazing. Amazing. This thing is insane. It will put a dent in a steel door. But it's not going to penetrate skin, right? So it's less lethal, but I guarantee it'll stop the fight. And it's like, it's quiet. It's quiet. You don't have to have ear pro. It's got zero recoil. So, people who want that option or want to train with shotgun.
Byrna is excited to release the most innovative, less lethal shotgun technology available to the public in over 30 years. The Byrna 12-gauge kinetic round. The Byrna 12-gauge kinetic is a 61 caliber fin-tailed projectile sabot inside of a 2.5-inch shell, meaning it can be fired from almost every 12-gauge shotgun on the market. Once fired, the clamshell sabot separates and the cantilevered fin tails spin the projectile to increase stability in flight, making it accurate to distances of over 100 feet. Due to the increased weight of the round, even at an average speed of 312 feet per second, the Byrna kinetic round imparts almost 20 joules of force to the target, which is nearly twice that of the standard 68 caliber round balls, thus carrying a devastating amount of stopping power. But even with all this power, the design of the round makes it safe enough to engage targets as close as 5 feet from the muzzle without the fear of lethal penetration. One of the best parts about shooting the Byrna 12-gauge rounds is that they are quiet enough to shoot in your own backyard. While a normal shotgun is over 160 decibels, the 12-gauge is less than 115 decibels, making it quieter than a cap gun, a leaf blower, or even your average squeaky dog toy. So if you're one of the over 30 million shotgun owners out there, it's time for you to put the most capable, less lethal 12-gauge round ever produced in your side saddle so that if the time comes, you are prepared to defend.
They have amazing products. So I'm going to be doing a ton with their social media guy. We may even do some crime scenario things, but just really helping to educate people. That's their mission as well, is empower people to be safe, to feel like they can live their life and not be afraid.
Yeah. Chris, can you talk about Survival Dispatch's relationship with Byrna?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty fond of saying there are no coincidences. So
Right.
we had a little snafu on our e-commerce that got Byrna's attention, and they sent me an email, and I replied back to it, and we had made a mistake. So, we have our developer correcting it right now, but that opened up a conversation with a bunch of other people at Byrna. Next thing you know, Luann, who's in charge of their business development stuff, ends up in touch with me, and I have a meeting with her later this afternoon, and had no idea that you were already working with them. It's
so for our viewers, bottom line is gear.survivaldispatch.com. You can buy Byrna product
absolutely
through Survival Dispatch as well, endorsed by Dr. Jenn Stankus.
Absolutely. And I'm not paid, by the way. Like I will do anything for this company because
full disclaimer.
All right. Yeah. So one of the other things that they gave me yesterday, just for, coming in, spending the afternoon and doing some social media stuff with them, is they make that backpack that I should show it to you, but you basically, it's just a quick deploy with one hand. But what's interesting, so it's got the body armor. You can quickly tie that around your back, this, Velcro stuff. But you've got your kit right there. It's the only backpack that's got the kit. So, you pull it over, you've got your Byrna there, you've got your regular handgun. It's like the perfect bug out bag. Yep. And for me, because I can't bring a weapon onto the military base where I work, I can bring that projectile launcher. And there have been a couple times, in fact, there was one day we had a crazy employee. You don't get any of those in the federal government. He was threatening to come back and, quote, take care of things the next day. And I'm like, damn it, I work the next day, And I'm like, I don't want to be here. So I brought my Byrna with me that day. But this is going to be the bag that I carry, because I can conceal carry, have body armor. I mean, this is like the perfect thing. You can have like a stop the bleed kit in there. It's just like the perfect bug out bag. I'm just so excited. I couldn't believe it. It was a really nice gift. I'm really grateful.
I haven't had my hands on it yet, but I've seen content on it. Looks really, really awesome. Maybe we'll be able to do our own version of a review on that particular bag. But small world, right? With these relationships with the weapons and less lethal and survival, and just really, really, really cool stuff, right?
Well, and American stories.
And
we obviously. Go ahead, Jen.
No, I was just going to say, one of the other things that both me and my husband are really big into, there's this negative connotation with the word prepper. Like, why? do you want your neighbor to be someone who's got food when there's like no food?
Heck yeah. Right.
Stuff like
Yeah.
that. I mean, like an EMP comes and takes stuff out, like you need cash, like there's just certain things that you need anyway. So we are totally into like the food preparation, making sure that you've got, water, food, heat, and cash, money, and things that you can trade for, stuff like that. So I'm like all about your whole concept and your whole show, and I'm just really grateful to be here.
Yeah, I think a lot of people's connotation of a prepper is somebody wearing a tinfoil hat, conspiracy theorist, those sort of things. And I mean, you can call us conspiracy theorists, but we've been right on pretty much.
I was going to say
a lot,
and,
a lot of things.
Just give me a second to back up here. So speaking of EMPs,
There she is.
have you ever seen a Faraday bag this big?
That's a Faraday.
No, that's incredible.
Yeah,
It's the size of a hockey bag.
It's
crying
huge.
out loud. These guys off-grid Trek out of Ohio sent it to us. The idea being is that you could put a portable power station and solar panels in it.
Wow.
So when you have an EMP, you still have a way to generate electricity afterwards. And
You crazy prepper, you.
I'm just going to say one thing. Like when stuff hits the fan someday, and there's a good chance it could, right? They're going to be so grateful for us in this country. Things are going to turn around because we're going to be the only ones who have this stuff figured out,
Yeah. Next time one of those Chinese weather balloons floats over us and blows out our power, we'll be a lot of grateful people.
And
right?
the difference too is that we'll still help everyone.
Yeah.
Like we don't discriminate,
Nope.
no,
That's right.
Exactly. So, Jen, where can people go to see Surviving Man, Lifeline? How do they get access to those shows?
So super exciting. So we've been waiting for Surviving Man season 2. I'll just give you some teasers on that in a second, but that comes out. We have a special watch party that you can sign up for at www.americanstories.tv. I think it's / either party or watch. It's if you go to American Stories social media on Instagram, you'll be able to find it. And then if you sign up to be a fan on American Stories TV, you can get a special preview next Friday, or just watch it next Saturday when it comes out for everyone. And what's really cool is, I'm sure that a lot of your viewers are familiar with the Pursuit channel.
Yep.
So Surviving Man is this fall, or this, I guess, third quarter, whenever that starts. Surviving Man's going to be the show right before Ted Nugent's Call of the Wild show. So so that's going to be pretty cool. And then I'm sure that Lifeline will be on that as well. So lots of places to watch it. And you can stream season 1 now, just on their website. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I've met Uncle Ted a few times.
Lucky.
Got to attend some NRA national events because of a connection that I had that was on the board. So he's an interesting character, and I grew up listening to his music. So I like Ted Nugent.
He's pretty cool. A few years ago, back when I was still a full-time professional mounted shooting competitor, I had a podcast. This was like 15 years ago. Called Mounted Shooting Talk Radio, and I ran into Ted at SHOT Show. This must have been back in I don't know how long ago it was, and I talked him into giving me an audio bumper, and oh man, I wish I kept that. This is Ted Nugent. You're listening to Mounted Shooting Talk.
Oh man,
it's so cool. I know I've got that somewhere. Very cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I can't guarantee, but I've heard rumors that season 3 might involve him or his property. I don't know.
Wow.
Don't get mad at me. No one blow me up if this isn't true or if I'm wrong.
Cool. I want to know where I can apply to be a production assistant for that season, Dr. Jenn. So you send me a link and I'll drop my resume in there.
Okay.
I can hold cue cards or whatever.
It's so funny. Well, Surviving Man. So Surviving Man season 1, if you've seen it,
Yep.
honestly, I'll tell you what, like I am totally physically fit. And I was hoping it was going to be like Navy SEAL Hell Week. You know, they drop you in and you're like going 24 hours a day for a week. I mean, they were long days. They were like, 14, 16-hour days. But like as a doc, I'm used to this. And so I was just like, whatever. But this second season, the PT test was crazy. And they're like, oh yeah, you're going to be in the water swimming with alligators. I'm like, whatever. Like you guys are trying to scare me. So I come out of the water and I see a friggin' gator. And I'm like, there's gators in there. And they're like, well, we told you there were. You guys are trying to kill us.
I never saw so much crab walking in my life as I did on season 1. OMG. You guys.
It's worse. It's
What?
worse.
No
yeah.
kidding.
Oh my gosh. So on the opening of Surviving Man Aftermath, I talk about that PT test. I've been in law enforcement, military. I'm a huge, like national world level athlete. I have never had a PT test like that.
Wow. Can't wait to see it.
And that was just the start, right? That's just the start of the day. It didn't end for another like 10 hours of all sorts of crazy stuff. That was day 1.
So we have a bunch of mutual friends and connections that are tied back to Bob Safale and American Stories TV. And we sent some promotions out to our email list a couple weeks ago for American Stories TV. So it's a small world again. But did I hear correctly that season 1, the entire season was filmed inside of some very short period of time? Was it like 7 to 10 days or something like that? Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
no kidding.
Same thing this year. But this year was just outside of Savannah, in the swamp.
Yeah, we're a couple hours. Yeah, we're a couple hours south of there right now.
Yeah. I think if I'm not mistaken, aren't there some teaser? Isn't there some teaser video leaking out there somewhere on social media on that? Because I think I've seen some.
Oh, and I'll just say, like, I love all PT except for one thing. The SEAL log training. I'm a little person, like this big, like that was horrible. And it just went on forever, hours, up and down tree stands, like around. I mean, it was through thick forest, through the water. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
Awesome.
I was like, so in my mind, the way I win and the way I kick these people's butts, I'm not the strongest person, but my mind is pretty strong, and I never ever quit. Like I'll have to be dead before I quit. And so in my mind, like if something is uncomfortable, who cares? As soon as you stop, it's going to be over, right? So, you're in a plank and you're at 24 minutes and you're like, I don't even think about it as uncomfortable, because as soon as the last person drops and you stop, the pain is done. So like, I think that people can endure way, 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 way more than they think they can.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's mindset, isn't it, Dr. Jenn? And I'll brag on Chris as a world champion bench press guy. I've been a professional athlete much of my adult life as a professional competitor, and a lot of it is mindset, getting your mind right. You got to have the body to go with it and the fitness, but this up here is a big deal.
Huge deal. Yeah, I saw when you were reaching for that EMP protector thing, I saw.
Oh, he's got his tickets to the gun show for sure. Yeah.
I was like, damn, man, he's got some arms on him.
and I think we're probably the three of us around the same age. And for our viewers, if you're a young person and you're watching this and you are not physically fit, it gets a lot harder as you get older, doesn't it, Dr. Jenn? I can tell them that for sure.
Totally. Yeah. And the other thing that I'd say is all you need are some running shoes and your own body to be super fit.
That's right.
That's all you need. You don't need a gym. There's no excuse. Oh, well, the weather's it's just, and all you need is half an hour a day.
Yeah. And that brings up a really interesting point for our viewers. We are survival dispatch, and there are a lot of things it takes to survive different circumstances. But if you're not physically fit to begin with, everything gets a lot harder. And Can you give me just a 30-second elevator pitch on the slightly chubby, overweight guy that is into prepping and survival and shooting and guns and self-defense and primitive skills? But what would you say to somebody like that to help them just get over the fence and turn their life around a little bit to be better physically fit and more healthy?
Well, I can do it in one sentence. Chicks dig it.
I like that. I like that. True story.
So here's some irony. One of our top influencers, his name is Jason Sawyer. He was a strength and conditioning coach at USC for years, and also a Navy SEAL strength and conditioning coach. Yeah. So when we were discussing the fitness side of survival with him, he said, man, if you want to tank your videos on Survival Dispatch, start talking fitness, because people will tune it out. So he has a really interesting way of working the subject into a video on another topic and just kind of dropping it as pearls of wisdom, something for people to think about, whatnot. And ironically enough, we had not met him before we acquired Survival Dispatch. Lo and behold, he's our neighbor in the middle of UFE nowhere in Morganton, Georgia, in the Blue Ridge.
Yeah, I'd love to meet that guy.
And so we ever since we acquired Survival Dispatch, we've had the opportunity to spend a fair bit of time with him. His wife and my wife have become friends and whatnot. So 3 weeks ago, they went camping on a Friday night with all the kids. Took virtually nothing with them, just like very little stuff. Like his shelter was his poncho, and it wasn't a military poncho. It was just like a, off the shelf commercial one. And then the next day, himself, his friends, and his kids and their kids that ranged in age from like 8, 9, 10 years old walked 14 miles home in a get home simulation. And
love it.
He's doing an amazing job for his kids. Him and his pastor started this thing called the U.S. Men's Academy, which has aspirations of becoming a national organization to make up for the shortfalls of the Boy Scouts now, because that organization has kind of gone down the tube sort of thing. Again, there's no coincidences. We're all exactly where we're supposed to be. So the fact that we would have the opportunity to acquire Survival Dispatch, and then lo and behold, one of the top influencers for Survival Dispatch lives 5 minutes away from our cabin in the Blue Ridge Mountains. I mean, just amazing stuff.
Just getting back to the fitness thing, I agree. Like, you don't want to intimidate people or make them feel bad or anything. But what I would say is that, there were a lot of really good shooters, like world-class shooters on Surviving Man. And as soon as you add an element of pretty significant fatigue or exertion, those skills go out the window if you're not fit. And so, part of survival and prepping in my mind is like, why wouldn't you prep your body to do that 14-mile walkout? And your adventure may begin at that point. It's not ending at that point. It's just starting. And so to prepare yourself to be able to deal with those conditions, I think just makes sense.
So we discuss getting home much more frequently than bugging out, because it's our belief that 83% of Americans live in urban environments. The other 17% who are in rural areas are not likely to bug out anywhere. And the people in the city, few of them have places to bug out. So if and when we're attacked again, it'll be like 9/11. They'll attack during morning or afternoon rush hour to inflict the maximum amount of chaos. Average American works 16 miles from home. So we preach, these are the things you need to have with you, not just a get home bag, but to be able to put comfortable shoes on, have, extra pairs of socks, because because you've been through military and law enforcement training, but unless somebody served somewhere in a theater of war like Vietnam, I don't know that they understand how quickly they can be derailed by messing their feet up. Their feet are wet. They've got blisters. You're done. And
I know, it's the craziest thing. Like, one little blister can take you out. I mean, it's incredible. I agree.
We have a very close friend of ours who's been on this channel, who has no idea how this happened, but a couple of weeks ago was in so much pain that he couldn't walk, and ended up in the ER, and has an infection in his pinky toe on his left foot. And the infection started spreading up his leg. It was very aggressive. So they hit him with some IV antibiotics, sent him home with additional antibiotics. And the redness had subsided, and they were marking his leg. I'm sure as a doctor, you know this, like with a felt marker to see what the regression was. And this has been one of my best friends for 25 years. And I got a text message from him earlier today. They're rushing him into the emergency surgery right now because of this infection on his.
Really?
On his,
It sounds like it's probably like necrotizing fasciitis, or like one of those, they call it flesh-eating bacteria or whatever, but they are just really aggressive.
So
aggressive
again,
infection.
no idea how it got into his foot, but he's got this like bulbous thing of fluid on the side of his toe, on the side of his foot. And they had said something like they didn't want to touch it because they wanted the antibiotics to do their thing instead of opening it up and maybe causing it to spread. But now he's actually probably in surgery right this minute. So
we'll say some prayers for him.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I said that to him earlier as well. But point being is take your average American, work 16 miles from home, and we have an EMP, or we have a nuclear attack that results in an EMP. Their EFI vehicle's not working. Their gas pumps aren't working, and they need to get home to their family. And it's kind of pretty hard to do that if you're not some element of being physically fit.
Yeah. Not everybody's got a horse in the backyard. I see a horse picture on your wall. Dr. Jenn, do you have horses?
Grew up with horses. Yeah. I love, I grew up riding. I was never as good as you. I don't know if I could have hit balloons that are moving around while walking around with a rifle or a shotgun.
You probably surprise yourself. I think it's like riding a bike. We never forget those skills.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, Jen. Well, listen, we really, really appreciate you coming on Survival Dispatch. Hopefully we get a chance to do it again.
I would love to. This is seriously right up my alley, and like it's so important for people.
Well, you're very inspirational to many people, and you know, I hate to be repetitive, but for a female who's small stature to kick a bunch of grown man's asses on something like Surviving Man, I mean, that's a real feather in your cap. I mean, obviously everything else, being a doctor and being an attorney, is very impressive as well. But I'm telling you straight up, you know, I'm 54 years old and I've had a bunch of surgeries and I'm nowhere near as good a health as I should be, or I used to be in the past. I don't think I want to go head to head with you on Surviving Man.
I don't think I would either.
Yeah, just to be clear.
Well, I appreciate that.
Okay.
And I do have to say it is kind of fun for me just because, you know, I mean, you guys don't have this experience, but you know, being underestimated, I don't say anything. I just show them what I can do.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks again, Jen. And I'm sure we'll get you back on the channel again sometime soon. And we'll let our friends at Burn know this afternoon that we had a good conversation with you today.
Excellent. Yeah. Excellent.
We'll post your links so people know where to find you guys and American Stories and all the cool stuff that you're involved in. And hope to see you again soon.
Definitely. All right, guys. Have a great day.
Likewise. Thank you, Jen.
Thanks.